organizers asked me to speak about the Swette Center, to speak about agricultural production, and to talk about sustainability in 15 minutes. So the title of my talk is Stuff. There you go. So first, the Swette Center. So it's our 5th birthday now in the great state of Arizona. I moved here from Washington, D.C. I love it. I love the fact that I can come in this room and see a lot of familiar faces, and that we are building community here, and that's great. And that I've been welcomed into this community. We have about 15 staff. Paul, I know you feel constrained, but you've got 350. That sounds darn good to me. But a bigger portfolio.
We do have a statute or two telling us what to do.
Yeah. We have about 100 affiliated faculty, and you can find a lot about us on our really good website, and we're in every kind of social media going. So we have 7 strategic priorities from day 1 of the Swette Center. I'm just going to tick them off and give you one example of something that we've been up to. And see, I'm using this to cheat, and I didn't bring my glasses. Okay, so cultivate the next generation of leaders. Leaders of all sorts. I'm at the tail end of my career, I believe, and it's time for all of us in my age bracket to be departing what we know on the younger gen so we can move forward. An example, I have a lot of people in this room who are current or past students of mine, and so we're working on that. Uplift Arizona food systems. That should sound good, right? And the example there I'll give is we just completed a report on urban agriculture led by Esteve, who's somewhere here. There you go. And it's on the front page of our website, so I recommend it. It's a beautiful report, and not just what we can and are doing in the state of Arizona, but examples from other parts of the country where we could have some lessons learned about how we move forward. Organic research and policy. Well, we're really into this transition to organic transition to organic. Okay, Courtney, help me out. Sarah.
Transition to organic partnership program.
Yeah, you can see how deeply I'm involved in that. I am very deeply involved in organic everything. But for those of you who haven't stopped by our table, you've got Sarah and Laura there. They can help demystify this, and if you're interested in being mentored to be an organic farmer, we have USDA resources to help that out. Enable the true cost accounting of food. This is trying to put a price tag on externalities of food production, both positive and negative, so we really have a sense of what food really costs. Interesting, it's such a big political debate right now, right? Both parties, both presidential candidates are talking about what should food cost, and is this price gouging and all of that. True cost accounting is a methodology that can actually shed light on that. And the example I'll give from the Swette Center work is we spent a few years, and part of it was slowed down by the pandemic, but looking at cow-calf operations in the American West, in particular in Arizona and Colorado. And what we really wanted to do is showcase the social capital that's created by our ranchers who, in some ways, were feeling besieged by all the alt meat and all of that sort of thing. So it's a very interesting report, which you can find on our website. Engaging the private sector. We want to uplift private sector efforts to the extent that we can. And the example I'll give now is we are partnering with Myland, which is a Phoenix-based company that has a really innovative live microalgae application to soil that increases soil health and water holding capacity, and that's funded by the Arizona Water Infrastructure Financing Authority with federal dollars from the Inflation Reduction Act. Harness the power of deliciousness. I just like saying that one, actually. No, it's actually a real strategic priority. The example there is we're just launching an effort with the Chef Ann Foundation, famous chef, Colorado-based, where they take on cohorts of people mid-career who are engaged in school lunch reform and really want to get their schools to do more scratch cooking. and we'll be developing curriculum around policy to help those cohorts. So I'm excited about that. And then finally, empowering indigenous foodways. Well, one of the striking facts when I moved to Arizona, my new home state, was that about 60% of producers are Native American. But here I have myself in a picture with Native Hawaiians in my Hawaiian shirt, my Aloha shirt, because we're also working in Hawaii on indigenous foodways. So a lot of opportunity there. So that's it about the Swette Center. I was here yesterday, and when I checked in at the table, introduced myself, and people there introduced themselves, one young woman said, well, in my division we work on organic agriculture, and then the other woman says, well, we're the division that does commercial agriculture. And I said to her, you know, there are a lot of organic operations that are commercial. She is just parroting the language that's just completely ingrained in us when we think about American agriculture. Paul, you talked about production agriculture and commercial agriculture. You're the greatest leader our state can have, and I'm calling you out on that. Because what I heard yesterday was I heard Sarah from Blue Sky Farm, which is a relatively small farm, organic farm. She's commercial. Duncan Family Farms, Arnett and his team, no, they're not just based in Buckeye. They have a couple of farms other places, but one of the largest organic farming operations in the country. They're commercial. We had our colleague, I don't know from Canada, if he's here today, did a great presentation talking about how he's a commercial operator, a market gardener on 2 acres. So I want us to just think about our language, about who really matters. And Ivan gave some great stats yesterday in his presentation. By the way, congratulations on your promotion. I'm excited about that for you. Well deserved. You know that we have all these farms that are less, you know, they're small acreage, and they're not making a lot of money. I'm not so concerned about the small acreage. I'm concerned about not making more than 25 grand. And that to me is the central challenge. And there are ways to be small and to be part of production agriculture, be commercial agriculture, whatever you want to call it. And I think back to a few years ago when I helped organize a hearing for the U.S. Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry, and it was on dairy. And it was about the plight of dairy. Like, what year was that, Kathleen? Because there's always the plight of dairy going on. And that's true, I agree. But what was the most striking thing about that hearing, and what people were talking about, not just months after, but years after, was that one of the farmers testifying before the committee was this woman dairy farmer from Vermont with only 40 cows, and her profitability was greater than many of the people on the panel who had thousands of animals. Now, she was organic, she got that premium, but there are ways to do it at different scales to be successful. And I think given who you all are and what you're trying to do, and a lot of you are putting your first foot in, I really want to really bring that message home. Okay, sustainability. Farm bills. Paul mentioned the Farm Bill. I have written a lot of language in farm bills. I'm a creature of farm bills in Washington, D.C. And maybe we have one in 2025. I think there's still some people who think there's hope for a 2024 Farm Bill. I'm not one of them. 2 years ago, I made a martini bet, my favorite drink, that the Farm Bill wouldn't be happening until at least 2025, just because of all the political calculations that are going on. It's a very short legislative season left in this year. If it were to happen, it would be lame duck. But Kathleen, you're supposed to be talking about sustainability. My point here is that the Farm Bill is, I'm from Massachusetts, we like to say wicked important. So when I was deputy secretary at USDA, which was a number 2 position there, and I oversaw the budget, and I was a chief operating officer, I can tell you, a Farm Bill dictates about 70% of what USDA does. So when it languishes, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the system, that's not a good thing. We don't know what's going to happen in November across the space, but we'll have a new Congress in January, and we'll have a new administration in January. And what we need to do is we need to get to those leaders, need to get to our congressional delegation, and we need to tell these leaders what we really need for sustainability purposes. And Paul's going to be really important in that too, because I know when I was deputy secretary, I had a monthly meeting with all state departments of agriculture directors, secretaries, commissioners. They have different names. It's not easy. But I really wanted to hear what they had to say because they're on the ground. And they're administering all these programs that Paul described earlier today. And so, boots on the ground, I wanted to hear from them. So figure out what is it that you need in your community and how to communicate to the people who might be sitting around those tables just deciding our fate. Okay, my other thing about sustainability is about next-gen leaders, which I mentioned as a strategic priority. So I first met Tom Vilsack, the Secretary of Agriculture, when I heard he might become Secretary. And I had gotten data from the Office of Personnel Management, the federal department that oversees all federal employees. And I realized that, we were about to have a tidal wave of retirements in federal service. And so, and we already knew that farmers were getting pretty up there in age. And so I asked to meet with him and I presented all this data. I also presented to a few other people I thought might be secretary too. I was shopping for a job. Anyhow, I think it's really important that we be thinking about this next gen challenge. And one of the things that we're really lucky to be doing at ASU and U of A is educating next gen leaders, whether they're in the farm, the ranch, food processing, corporations, small startups, in the halls of power in Washington, D.C., at the State Department. I think it's really important. These are some of my students exploring the Winter Salad Bowl down in Yuma. We bring them there, my grad students, every year. And then here are some of my students exploring Washington, D.C. I'm looking to see if Emily Owen is in that picture. I can't see you, but maybe it was the year before. So we have this Next Gen grant from USDA. It was $18.5 million shared across 4 universities and Food Corps, which is a great organization that puts recent college grads into service at our public schools for a couple of years after graduation to champion school gardening curriculum and healthy eating. Anyhow, it's a great grant. It's allowing us to fund a lot more scholarships for grad students and undergrad students and paid internships. And I will say, sometimes I get down and out in terms of ag policy. I'm long in the tooth, I'm getting tired, but then I get inspired by these young people. And I figure if I can give them a dollop of what I know, and they add to it their passion and their energy and their commitment, who knows where these things go. And I think in conclusion then, I will, Emily, you're not done yet, you still have a year. I will introduce our most recent grad from Arizona, Kaylee Necessary. Oh, come on, stand up, take a bow. She's not a big pig for attention like I am. So she just got her master's in sustainable food systems, wrote a really great final report on how strategies to get more fruits and vegetables into vulnerable communities in Phoenix. She's part of the staff ed team at U of A. And it's these kinds of investments that will make the difference. So have a great day. Thanks for having me. Lovely to be here.
Thank you to Dr. Kathleen Merrigan for giving us this wonderful opening presentation and hopefully inspiring us. We will now go into our session 1. So session 1 will be from 9:40 a.m. to 11:10 a.m. In room 1, the main room, we will have Dr. Ayman Mostafa talking about sustainable IPM and sustainable farming, and Dr. Bindu Podell Ward, I'm so sorry, talking about holistic approaches to plant disease management. Sorry, the slide changed on me. In room 2, we will have Dr. Andrea Carter talking about growing for our climate and cultures with desert adapted and traditional crops. And in room 3, we will have Dr. Flavi Ayudon. So sorry. Talking about types of livestock and best practices. So,
Yay!
Yay.
Thank you.